chat it up.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you here. Well, let's just dive right in. I mean, what's it like to be the daughter of somebody so legendary, especially in the car world, as John DeLorean?
So this is a question I used to answer differently before I started this journey with DNG Motors. It's been amazing, and it's been difficult because of the history of the car, but now it is something I couldn't explain to you if I tried. Magical would be the word that I have for it. My father was one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century, not just in the automotive world. He invented sneakers and soda pop and tennis rackets. So growing up his daughter was a whole lot of asking questions and being given the answers by seeking them out. He took me to his library and looked it up in the encyclopedia, or we went to the real library if he didn't have it. I am blessed to be my father's daughter.
That's very cool. That's a neat legacy to have. Talk to us, what's DNG Motors? Tell us just briefly what that's all about.
DNG Motors.
And I have lots of questions. Be prepared.
DNG Motors, it stands for DeLorean Next Generation, because I am the next generation of DeLorean. And it began as a journey to start I came back, I wanted to connect with the fans of my father, and I wanted to tell their stories. Every DeLorean owner has an amazing story. Each one of them can tell you the first time they saw the car, and it's always between 6 and 10. Somebody who's had their first experience outside that age, come find me, I want to meet you. And then they go on to tell me how this car changed their life. One gentleman became a finance manager because at 10 years old he learned how to save money because he wanted to buy his DeLorean. And then Angel, who's designing my car, he saw the car and he went on to do what he does today because of it. So this car has become this representation of everybody dreaming and everybody seeking to achieve those dreams. And I wanted to tell their stories. And when I did, I was also building an engineering program for public high school kids. And so we started to build this car, this one car, just one car, to show these kids how to do it and to kind of talk about the challenges my father faced. As we did this amazing thing happened. All of these people started to come out of the woodwork and hear what I was doing. And the best way I can sum it up is a CEO of an aerospace industry companies came to me and said, I pumped your father's gas when I was a teenager and he changed my life. He was so kind and gracious, anything you need, just ask. I likened growing up DeLorean to being the boy named Sue. It was difficult. And now I get to really experience what my father meant to people in this world. And coming back to your first question, just recently, I was with my husband. And we were talking, just having a conversation about something, and the painting of my father's car is hanging on my wall, and I just lost whatever we were talking about and broke down in tears. I said, how do you take in that he was so big? How do you accept that he changed the world? How do I sit with that? He didn't prepare me for this. He didn't prepare me for how grand he was. And so now I get to really bask in the man that he was and hear about the inspiration that he had, and not just how his car changed the lives of people, but the people whose lives he actually changed are all finding me now. And DNG Motors is a culmination of that. It's a culmination of people who have gone into this industry because of their passion and love for cars. And it started with my dad. And now we're gonna build an amazing car. And this car it started with an engineering program. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna bring the love and passion and education for how to do this to kids everywhere.
That makes me very happy to hear you say that, because beginning with John and Lynn, and to a lesser extent Heidi, but everybody in this car world talks about involving younger people and involving kids. But you got to do something about it. You have to be proactive about it. You know, I grew up as the generation of "don't touch my car." And I think we all realize what a horrible, horrible mistake that now was. Because what you want to do is you want to engage these kids. They are so involved with their phone or whatever else, their outside extracurricular activity, that they're not in the garage wrenching on a car like kids our age did with their dad or mom, even to some extent. And I think you're coming through loud and clear when you're saying that you're developing this program to engage and involve younger people. I mean, kudos to you. I think that's terrific.
Well, and what was amazing too is we start partnering with all these people. Of course, you have to find all the people you need to make all the parts and
Sure.
things like that. And we start talking to our partners and we describe what we do. And they love the car. They found me because they want to build the car. And by the time we're done, all they care about is what we're about to do with this education program, because they all tell me the same thing. Either it was so hard for me to find my way or to find education, or it's only available in Detroit or places where it's known that this exists. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't find it. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have the opportunity. I couldn't afford it. So we want to change that. We want to help bring this to everybody. And we also want to reach them because, 50% of teenagers today don't want to ever own a car. What is that? That's tragic to me.
Yeah.
So how do we address that? How do we look at how the world has changed? When I was a kid, I had to go to my friends' houses. I had to pay a fortune to talk to people outside of my state or country. They don't have that today. So we need to shift how we look at car culture and the kids that we have today and get them back into enjoying it.
And I see in my notes the car is called a JZD, obviously your dad's initials. So if somebody out here wants to go learn about that, where do they go to find out?
Sure, they can go to dngmotors.com, and we have the renderings of the car there. We have more information about our program and what we're trying to do and our company.
What's your timeline? Do you have a timeline yet at this point, or?
You're asking me questions.
I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a timeline.
Okay.
And we expect to be producing have our cars in 2025, which will be the 100th anniversary of my father. So that's what we're going, and that's the timeline that we're on now. But this is a question that I can't answer traditionally, because things are not happening for me the way they do for everybody else.
Yeah.
So it could happen a lot faster, and it could take just a little bit longer. But that would be because we need to address. It has to be, what would John do? I can't just build a car. It has to be the car my father would have built.
Sure.
And he had standards that are a little ridiculous sometimes. So I have to be able to build a car that's fuel efficient, durable, reliable, fun to drive, and affordable. Good luck.
But you know what? You have a vision, and you need to follow the vision,
Yes.
which was the common denominator with the three people that were here prior to you sitting in that seat. You have a vision, and you're going to see it through, which I think is quite admirable. And I think that's a great message to our younger listeners that are out there, is if you have a vision, go for it. You have life-changing moments, and that would be one of those. I was chuckling to myself when you were talking about the DeLorean, the DMC-12. And when I think of your dad, I don't think of that car. Because of my age, I think of the GTO, obviously, and how he transformed Pontiac.
Yes.
And, took it as kind of a stodgy old man's car, which really began before him with Bunky Knudsen. But your dad took it to another level. And Pontiac was the number 3 automobile in the United States throughout the 1960s, largely because of the vision of your dad and Jim Wangers, which is an incredible legacy.
A crazy statistic that I learned while doing my research. The automotive industry had its greatest market share of the GDP the quarter before my father retired from GM and never achieved that level again.
Wow, that's really incredible.
Now there's a lot of things that went into that just wasn't my father.
Sure.
But that was the golden age of the automobile. And the DeLorean is amazing. It's an incredible achievement what he did. But I tell people that was the end of the story.
Yeah.
I own a Firebird. I am a muscle car girl. And I tell people, yeah, DeLorean's cool, but my father invented the American muscle car. And it didn't just change automotive history, it changed our entire world and culture. Car culture as we know it today arguably exists because of him. Prior to the GTO, a car got you from point A to point B. After the GTO, a car defined your personality.
I wouldn't disagree with you in many respects in that. Kind of a final thing to touch on, the Mecum auction in Kissimmee, Florida was this, of course, this weekend. And, you know, I have had it on in the background over the last 4 days. And I chuckled to myself because a 1970 GTO convertible in Orbit Orange with a Ram Air 4 engine under the hood sold for $1 million. Your dad must be thinking up there somewhere, what is going on? I'm sure he never would have visualized that in a million years that we would have gotten $1 million for a Pontiac GTO at auction. That's incredible. It speaks wonders of his legacy.
It does.
We're so glad to have you here today. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for
and
having me.
Don't forget, the website.
It stands for, so it's DNGmotors.com.
DNGmotors.com.
And it's easy to remember because it stands for DeLorean Next Generation.
Awesome.
And if you're a Star Trek fan, you'll never forget. But I'm the next generation DeLorean, so.
Kat DeLorean, thank you so much for joining us
you.
today. This concludes our Fireside Chats, as they were referred to. I thought that was a humorous name since there's nothing to do with Fireside up here, but our chats today, hope you enjoyed them. And with that, we'll move on to our awards presentation in just a few moments. Kat, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.